This has happened a couple of years ago in the Philippines. Forgive my English. Vacation in a very rural place in my grandma's home village with my aunt and little brother. Place is really old and quiet. The province here is really that peaceful, full of open fields of rice. One day, aunt announces to the family that she's 3 months pregnant. She was 23, maybe 24 at that time, and was still studying as a nurse. Apparently she got knocked the fuck up from a one-night stand. Grandma all mad and shit, saying how she's too young to have a child and she hasn't finished her studies yet. Aunt storms off to her room crying while all of us remain silent in the living room. Few hours later, Grandma told me to ask my aunt to take her dinner, so I went to her door. All I could hear was her silently singing something I couldn't make the words out. I knocked thrice. No answer. So I decided to just stay in the living room and watch some shitty Filipino telenovelas. No Wi-Fi too. Grandma again tells me to remind my aunt of her dinner and how the food is getting cold. Walk to my aunt's door. Still could hear the vague song. Took a glass and do that shit they do in the movies where you put the glass on the wall so you could hear the people inside the room. Could hear my aunt singing.
雪花飘飘，北风萧萧，天地一片苍茫。
Magdalena, you are my light. Hear that shit over and over and over and over again. Shit really freaked me out, but I didn't mind it at first. Next day, aunt screams, waking the whole house up. Me, my bro, and grandma rushes to my aunt's room. Blood clots everywhere. In her bed, in her shirt, pillow, all that shit. Grandma rushes her to the hospital while me and my bro were tasked to bag all the bloody rags. Went outside to throw them rags. Lil bro, 6 years old, starts to cry really loud and rushes to me. Looked like he's seen some shit. Ask Lil bro what the fuck just happened. Lil bro kept on pointing at my aunt's room. I really want to nope the fuck out the vicinity of our home. I know how this shit goes. I watch too many of them horror flicks. I ain't up for this shit. Took my lil bro outside the gate and we sat there while he cries. He kept on murmuring Lola, which is our word of grandma, or rather for this story's sake, old lady. Being the most courageous big brother that I was, I asked him what he saw, because I'm not going back there. Said he saw an old lady with bloody hands in the corner of the room. Literally fuck this shit. Felt like I was in a horror movie. I was in a state of panic, literally sweating all over the place and I could hear my heart pumping. Van pulls out in front of us. It's our uncles. Took us to the hospital where my aunt was. Me and Lil Bro sat outside their room drinking coffee. Lil Bro still scared. I could still see it in his eyes. I could overhear them talking and arguing. Learns that aunt had a miscarriage earlier that day. Grandma exits the room and told us that we won't be coming to that house anymore. Finally feel that assurance and relief of not having to go back to that place. Went back to my parents' home while aunt was still in the hospital. Parents asks us what the fuck happened. Told her the story. Finally got to the point where I told her about the song. Mom's face turned from listening to slightly frightened. The fuck is going on? Mom explains everything. I won't be green texting this part. It's quite hard for me to translate everything and break them up into pieces, so bear with me. It was an urban legend about a midwife who lost her newborn during a careless accident, where the baby fell from his mother's arms. The midwife was driven insane. Every day the midwife would carry her dead newborn's corpse and sing a song Magda, Lena, to it, believing it calms the dead baby. The husband grew worried and tried to separate the midwife from the lifeless carcass, where the husband soon decided to bury their dead child, without the midwife's consent. Upon finding out, the midwife was further driven into madness. She would pretend that she was all right and abort the children instead of safely delivering the babies. The whole town started to notice when an unusual number of failed pregnancies became too high. The townsfolk went to the midwife's house to confront her only to find the husband's dead body and the midwife caressing the decaying remains of her recently deceased child. The townsfolk executed the midwife, leaving her lying next to her deceased family. They said that women with unexpected or unplanned pregnancies, who cannot afford having the baby, could sing the song and the midwife would come at night. Shit really got to me. Realized that I'm not the main character, I'm just those side dudes who dies early on a horror movie. Couldn't really sleep for days upon hearing the story. It was always one of those sleeps where you tried too hard trying to sleep only to wake up without knowing how you slept in the first place. Few days pass, and Aunt would be staying with us to recover. Aunt never spoke a word, she's just sort of there. She was always so pale and would never eat other than soup. The weirdest shit was that she never sleeps. Me and my bro started to share a bed, so my aunt could have the bed across us. She would literally just sit there with her back on the wall facing the bed. She looks exactly like those dead girls in the movies where the characters try to make conversations with them, only for them to turn out dead. She doesn't get out of the room, she would just be sitting there in her spot. Sometimes she would pull her hair and start to cry. Sometimes see her standing and looking through the window. When left alone in a room, she would spaz and would cry on the floor, so my lil bro stays with her constantly. One day, she finally starts to fall asleep. Felt a slight relief thinking all of this would be over. She was probably tired of staying up for 3 days. She slept for 16 whole hours. We left her in the room, and me and my bro played Borderlands 2 in the living room 2:32 a.m. Not sure about the time, it was something like that. Me and my bro head to bed. Room was chilly as fuck, and that shit's rare in the Philippines. It was almost as if we had an air conditioner in the room. Hid under the covers and slept. Woke up in the middle of the morning around 3 something. Look at my aunt from under the covers. She's fucking awake and has her eyes open. I could tell that she was trying to move. Her eyes were the only ones moving. She was paralyzed or some shit. Literally no muscle moving, just her eyes uncontrollably looking from right to left. She then started to fix her gaze to me, almost pissing my pants. I wanted to ask if everything is alright. Her gaze then started to shift downwards, as if she was trying to signal me that something is there on the footside of her bed. Tucked under the covers, because I was completely pussying out. Decided to look anyways. I kid you fucking not, I fucking saw something really similar to pic related. It was just standing at footside of her bed staring at my aunt. Looked back at my aunt, and saw her scarily staring back at me. Fucking see the thing moving slowly walking, or floating, towards her. Tucked under the covers, because fuck my aunt. I don't even know her first name. Decided to take one last peek. Fucking saw the woman leaning over my aunt as if it was whispering something. See my aunt just staring at me. Pass out. Woke up and found my parents trying to lift my aunt. She was having a seizure, foaming mouth and all. That was the last thing I've ever heard about my aunt. With the shit I saw, I wouldn't want to be near that bitch anymore. A year later. Aunt is now in a wheelchair, don't know why, greet her and hug her and all the relative stuff. Finally had to ask her if the woman really did said something to her. MFW, her face turned really pale. MFW, it's that fucking feeling again. It's gonna start again, isn't it? MFW, her face starts to tear up as she tells me that the woman told her that if I don't post this within the next 15 minutes, she gonna visit me soon.